SITREP World Briefing for May 27, 2026. Israel widened its campaign in southern Lebanon on Tuesday, combining intensified airstrikes with expanded ground operations against Hezbollah positions across the border area. Lebanese health authorities said the strikes killed dozens of people in the south, while the Israeli military said it had hit more than 100 Hezbollah sites in southern Lebanon and the eastern Bekaa Valley. The escalation followed Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's pledge to press harder against the Iran-backed group, signaling that Israel was shifting from limited exchanges to a broader offensive aimed at degrading Hezbollah's infrastructure and fighters near the frontier. The military push came after Israel issued fresh evacuation orders in southern Lebanese towns, including in the Nabatea area. By pairing evacuation warnings with large-scale strikes and ground maneuvers, Israel indicated it was preparing civilians for sustained operations rather than a short retaliatory raid. Southern Lebanon has long been Hezbollah's main stronghold along Israel's northern border, and any widening campaign there carries the risk of deeper disruption to already heavily damaged communities, as well as the possibility of drawing in additional regional actors aligned with Tehran. The latest assault highlighted how fragile the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire has become after months of intermittent clashes, drone launches, and artillery fire along the Blue Line. Hezbollah is not only Lebanon's most powerful armed group, but also a central member of Iran's regional network, which means Israeli ground incursions in the south are viewed in Jerusalem as a direct effort to push hostile forces away from northern Israeli communities. With fatalities rising and more than 100 sites reportedly struck in a single wave, the operation marked one of the sharpest escalations in Lebanon since the ceasefire was announced, and it raised the prospect of a prolonged campaign rather than a brief border action. An Israeli airstrike in Gaza City killed Odeh, the new head of Hamas's military wing, in an attack that also left at least 3 people dead, according to reports on Tuesday. Israeli authorities said the strike had targeted a senior figure they identified as one of the architects of the October 7th attacks. The attack took place after a ceasefire that was still formally in place. The killing is significant because Hamas's military wing has been central to the group's battlefield operations, recruitment, and planning throughout the war, and leadership losses at that level can disrupt communications and succession even when the organization remains intact. Gaza City, in the north of the enclave, has repeatedly been the focus of Israeli raids and strikes aimed at command centers, tunnel networks, and senior Hamas figures. The United States carried out strikes near the Strait of Hormuz, prompting Iran to accuse Washington of violating a fragile ceasefire. Iranian officials described the attacks as a breach of the truce, while U.S. military statements acknowledged overnight strikes on missile-related sites. The confrontation unfolded near one of the world's most strategically important shipping choke points, where military action can threaten commercial traffic, energy markets, and the security architecture of the Gulf. Iran's denunciation was noted during the timing of the strikes, which took place while Iranian and Qatari negotiators were in Doha for peace talks. A senior Revolutionary Guard political official said the likelihood of renewed war with the United States was low, while Iranian leaders warned that the country's forces remained prepared. Tehran was trying to preserve diplomatic space while also making clear that further U.S. action around Hormuz or at regional bases could trigger a wider response. The Strait of Hormuz is significant because a large share of the world's seaborne oil and gas exports passes through its narrow waters, linking Gulf producers to global markets. Any exchange of fire there can push insurers, shipping companies, and naval forces into emergency planning. Washington and Tehran appeared to be testing whether they could sustain deterrence without tipping into open conflict. NASA, on May 26, presented new renderings and outlined the next steps in a long-term plan to establish a permanent human presence on the Moon by 2032. The agency said the effort would move beyond short-duration missions by combining surface infrastructure, transport systems, and support technology intended to keep astronauts living and working on Earth's only natural satellite on a continuing basis, rather than returning only for brief visits. As part of the plan, NASA said it intends to send hopping drones and roving vehicles to the lunar surface, systems that would help crews move around difficult terrain, survey sites, and support future operations tied to a sustained base. Those capabilities matter because a permanent outpost on the Moon would require far more than a landing craft. Astronauts would need reliable mobility, equipment delivery, and ways to explore areas that are too distant or hazardous to reach on foot during regular surface work. The announcement places NASA's lunar program within a broader strategic push to turn the Moon into a lasting base for science, engineering, and future deep space missions, rather than treating it only as a symbolic destination. A target date of 2032 gives the agency a concrete timeline, and the release of detailed renderings signals an attempt to show how habitation on the lunar surface could function in practice, with permanent facilities forming the backbone of an enduring human foothold beyond Earth. A heat dome parked over Western Europe pushed temperatures to record levels for May across Britain, Ireland, and France this week, bringing unusually intense early-season heat to parts of the continent. Scientists said the event was strengthened by human-caused climate change, which is raising baseline temperatures and making extreme heat more likely to occur earlier in the year. The episode has drawn attention because May heat on this scale arrives before the peak summer season, increasing the risk of health stress, wildfire conditions, and pressure on water systems before many countries have fully shifted into summer preparedness. Researchers said the Western European heat dome trapped warm air and suppressed cloud formation, allowing strong sunshine to intensify conditions at the surface, while long-term warming made the resulting temperatures more extreme. Europe has been identified as the world's fastest-warming continent, a distinction that reflects its geography, shifting atmospheric patterns, and the cumulative effect of greenhouse gas emissions. That broader trend matters because it means heat records are no longer just being edged past, but exceeded by larger margins, turning what would once have been considered exceptional late-spring warmth into a more dangerous signal of how rapidly the region's climate is changing. Sources and the full written briefing are available at sitrepbrief.com.